Introducing
Pretty Girls Love Real Estate. Stories of everyday women breaking barriers and building wealth through real estate.
Let's get it. Boss. BOSS.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Pretty Girls Love Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Washington, and I'm super excited once again for my guest today. I have Miss Jina Ortiz. She is a commercial real estate broker in the Worcester, Massachusetts, Boston, Mass area. So I'm excited to talk to her about all what's going on in that market, how it is to be just a woman of color in this area, and a lot of the different associations that she's a part of, especially for helping Hispanic people to really advance their careers in the commercial real estate world. So, Jina, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, Jessica. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be part of your podcast.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time. So I'm really excited for this conversation. So first and foremost, let's jump into it. How did you become interested in real estate?
It's so funny because it was pretty ironical. It was about 7-8 years ago. I was actually, it's my first career was as a college professor and a writer. And I was helping out a friend who had her own brokerage office, and they hired me part-time as an administrative person. And so during that time, I was still writing. I was still just finished grad school with my Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing at that time, and was just starting to teach at the college level. And so she gave me this opportunity. I said, "You want to help us out?" And I was like, "Sure." And so during that process, she was really encouraging me to attain my real estate salesperson's license, because I started to do a lot of work with BPOs and helping her with transactions, and not just the ordinary administrative role. And so I really, I took that opportunity, and I took the course, and I took my exam, and from there, I began my career on the residential side with Keller Williams. And then I transitioned the last few years into getting training for commercial through KW Commercial. And then now I'm in a smaller firm that's independent in my region here. So that's pretty much the journey in terms of my real estate career. And so I'm really enjoying commercial. It's a lot of work. It's a different type of transactions than I was used to on the residential space. And I think, and I'm learning every day, continuing to train every day. And I am in the middle of being a CCIM candidate as well. So it's pretty intense right now in terms of my learning journey is simultaneous with my practice. Because I still, I have clients, I have active clients. And in fact, what I'm realizing, especially in the multifamily space, is that a lot of my clients that came on the residential space are now looking for larger properties and larger goals for their portfolios and so forth. So actually it comes in handy when you have that experience, and when you can, increase, your clients, units or whatever their goals are, in terms of multifamily or even small businesses on the retail side. I have clients that it wasn't just, a personal home, but they are also small business owners and looking for retail space. So it's been coming in handy, my experiences, and also the training that I've been attaining and continue to attain in this space. So I think it's just evolving, and I think my career in real estate is evolving every day. depending on the client. It's definitely been a baptism by fire kind of situations.
Okay. All right. So there's a couple of things that I want to ask about that you mentioned. So first off, was there any particular situation or particular client or anything that happened that made you like say, all right, now I want to start doing commercial. I want to transition from residential.
Well, I think I see more of a need because there are very few in my region bilingual commercial brokers.
Right.
A lot of my clients are more inclined to keep me as their broker because of that comfortability and also that language.
Right.
You know, a client's not going to be comfortable if there's a language barrier. And if most brokers in the region are pretty mainstream, white, male, and over the age of 50,
Right.
To some people that could be very intimidating. And I have clients that feel more comfortable with someone like me because they can talk to me and they know when you're younger, you're really hustling and you're going to get it done. And I think, you know, in our industry, a lot of people get very comfortable after they have reached a certain amount of success. But I think for those of us who are in the field, are younger, you know, we're really hustling, we're really expanding, you know, many people are starting their own firms and so forth. And, you know, it's exciting. And I'm in the camp of encouraging that and being part of that. Absolutely. So I believe in ownership. I believe that, especially for people of color and women, the more we own our own firms and our identities, and, you know, whether you want to be a developer or you're also contemplating doing that as well, or being an investor, you know, I'm in the camp of supporting that and encouraging that for others as well.
Absolutely. All about that, and representation certainly matters. So I want to talk about what's going on with real estate in your market. So we're kind of like, I guess, on the tail end, light at the end of the tunnel with the pandemic, and the real estate market has been like notoriously crazy throughout this whole year all over the country. So how are things looking, especially on the commercial side in Mass?
Yeah, we're booming. In my city, in Worcester, which is known as the Smile City, or the heart of the Commonwealth, we have been booming like crazy. The last few years have seen a lot of development, and one of the largest ones was an over $150 million development of the Woo Sox, the Red Sox minor league stadium literally in the heart, in the middle of our city, in our downtown. And so what has happened is that all the properties and area all around that larger development have been also booming.
Right.
And people have been grabbing as much land as they can. We've also had the Mercantile Center Business District development, which was over $548 million. There's only 2 more lots available to grab. So if anyone wants them, please email me. You know, I've been showcasing one. So the third group in there, so Bowman Keaty's KW Commercial Group is another third group in our region, and they have been developing the downtown area adjacent to the Mercantile development, which is the theater district. He's been doing wonderful work with that, and his team with wonderful co-workers there. And so there's only a handful of pretty much players in the commercial space in our region. You don't really see JL too much out here, although once in a while you'll see listings or CBREs, but it's pretty much like most of New England, it's small town mentality in terms of the way you do business. You do business locally, you do business with people you feel comfortable with and trust, and know the land and know the area and know the municipality, right? And so, and how to structure deals around the municipality. The good thing is that in our city, they're very good
Mhm.
Very pro-development. We're in a blue state. We have a lot of tax credits. They're big. We need market rate multifamily right now. And also we can still use more retail. And I think that's what the city wants right now. I think nationwide, I've been reading about affordable housing being low, housing in general. We need more units, and that's pretty much what it is. So in my city, we don't escape that fact neither. We definitely need more units. We're open arms for multifamily developers to come in. We also have quite a few tax credits and incentives from the state through mass housing development, through the transportation department as well. So the developments that I just mentioned that are right downtown are literally walking distance from our commuter rail, which whomever wants to develop can also get access to those credits. That's one thing about doing business in Massachusetts, that we have quite a bit. If you need it, we can get it.
All right.
Situation. And so the transportation department has a program for pushing more accessible and walkable areas and having housing where people can get to their work in through public transportation. So they're encouraging that as well. And the whole state is. And we have quite a few large projects in terms of statewide mass transit, speed rail, huge. Actually, for the Northeast region in general, from New England all the way down to New York City, they've been talking and building on quite a bit of rail coming in the next couple of years. If not, they're starting pretty soon. So we're just waiting for the Biden administration, to get that infrastructure bill. And I think we're going to even have even more money. But I think at least in our region, in the blue states for sure, we're getting ready for that.
All right. Any developers out there, if you hadn't thought of Worcester, Mass, it's a hidden gem. They need multifamily retail. The state is offering so many different tax credits and incentives. So definitely take a second look if you haven't thought about it already.
Yup, and medical office build and life science. We're a life science hub and a medical office hub. So anybody in that space, we're known for that because we're literally 45 minutes outside of Boston. And Boston's the #1 in the entire nation for life science and pharmaceuticals and MOBs. So, and they love the woo because we're right here. When they can't fit something in Boston, they come out to our region. Yep, and that's why part of the reason we've been booming through COVID is because the medical space has been booming. There's not enough lab space to go around. So people have had to build it, renovate it, you name it, hospitals, etc.
Got you. Okay, let's go back to talking about you, because on this show, obviously this show is all about women and sharing their experiences in this male-dominated industry. So I guess what are some of the challenges that you feel like you face as a woman of color, especially in your market?
For sure. I think one of the things that I definitely face, and I know I've spoken to a few people, there's only a handful of us that are of color in the commercial space, here, is that, we don't really have our own group. We don't have, I hear all these wonderful chapters in Washington, D.C., and Atlanta, even in Texas, and we don't have that here yet. And so part of the community building that I've been trying to do is pretty much on LinkedIn and Clubhouse. It's where I'm finding out about what everyone else is doing in the other regions that are of color and that are women. And so being a part of that is really essential. I mentioned also REAL, being part of REAL, the Real Estate Association for LatinX in the commercial space. And it's been formative for me. And I've been encouraging also another friend of mine who lives here with me, who's also a Latina broker, who does in the commercial space and multifamily and land and mixed use and so forth. And it's just valuable for us to be part of these groups. And also, my closest crew chapter is in Boston. I would have to travel 45 minutes plus just to get to a face-to-face meeting. But the good thing about the pandemic is that a lot of their events have been virtual. Right. People from across the state can join in because that's pretty much the only hub where there's a crew chapter. And as you know, crew is the commercial real estate women's association for women in general. But even in that association, it's not as diverse as we would like it to be, right? In terms of women of color. And I've heard that from different chapters across the country as well, that it's very white in terms of the women, much older. But I think I think in certain chapters, they're trying to diversify more and get more younger women involved in their chapters. So I hope this is going to be something that is going to be implemented nationwide if it hasn't been encouraged across. But I think it definitely needs to be, for sure, to be across all the chapters in the associations, because I think when you don't include enough brokers and developers that are women of color into these organizations, you're really missing out on a market. You're missing out on communities, right? That definitely should be included, and that I think many businesses and organizations are, for whatever reason, either not including into their portfolio, or I don't know. I really don't know what the reasoning behind, but one of the things that is encouraging is that, on the national level and on the federal and the political level, we're seeing a lot of movement with the HUD department, with the new department head of HUD, which is, why am I escaping the name of, and she's a woman of color right now. Do you know the name, Jessica, of?
I'm drawing a blank as well.
I think it's, oh my goodness, is it Marcia Secretary?
Let me look it up.
The new HUD secretary is a very formidable woman of color.
Marcia Fudge.
Huh?
Marcia Fudge.
Yes, Marcia Fudge. Yes, Secretary Marcia Fudge. Yes, and the reason why I know about her is because I've been reading a lot lately that they are encouraging more affordable housing units to be built, and I think we may be receiving funding at some point, depending on what's going to happen with the infrastructure bills, and also encouraging this wealth gap amongst communities of color. I've been reading up on that. And so, yes, and I have friends who are in the same sorority as she is in. So I do know that much.
Awesome. So you, between Real, and then you also started a local chapter of the National Association for Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. Are there any particular initiatives that you all doing now, either locally or on a national level?
Right. Yeah, I was involved with the NARA local chapter a few years ago. So I actually don't know what's happening with them now, because since I switched specialties and I actually left that chapter, they're running great. As far as I know, they're in existence, and so is the Boston chapter. And so I know that on the residential side, they have more members that are of color. Region. There's many more LatinX professionals who are residential brokers and so forth, and who are active on the residential side. So for that, in that aspect, I can definitely say that that's still going on. That they have chapters, and in fact, I think in our region, the NARA chapters have increased the last few years because they opened up one in Rhode Island, and I know they've opened a couple in Connecticut. So I think, in terms of the New England region, there's representation definitely from these organizations on the residential side, for sure. On the commercial side, we just don't know each other yet because there isn't that umbrella organization. And I think Real is still expanding and planning and doing all that in terms of execution for how they're going from regions to regions, the nationwide planning. But I am excited. I'm a supporter of them. And so are a lot of the CRE professionals of color. They're very excited for the organization, and we're just ready to jump in when they expand. And I've mentioned to founding board members that, when they're expanding, they want to do a New England region, regional committee or something. I'm all about that. I'm all about encouraging that and being a part of that. And I'm sure that the Latinx professionals I do know, the handful that I do know, there's only a few of us here, I know in my city, that do this type of work. I know we would be very supportive of that and gung-ho about establishing the association out here, for sure.
One thing that you mentioned before, I want to talk about like education and expanding your network. So one thing you mentioned before is that you're possibly going for the CCIM designation. Can you just explain what that is for people that don't know, and kind of what's your process so far as pursuing that?
Yes, for sure. So the CCIM is a premier designation for commercial brokers, professionals in the commercial space. It's it's the highest designation you can attain. Some people have called it kind of like the PhD for commercial brokers because of the extensiveness of the courses. We have quite a few courses that you need to take, a series of courses, and then you take an exam, and then you have a portfolio of related to how many deals you've closed, et cetera, that you have to show to the CCIM organization in order for them to official you as a designee. So it's a process. And the process can take, for any individual, can take anything from 9 months, I've heard, to 2 years plus. It all depends on where you are in your process. So for me, I'm in my initial process in terms of my courses. And then, I don't think it should take me too long in terms of practicum and deals, because I'm always working and what have you, but there's a certain amount of dollars that you have to achieve in terms of deals, et cetera. So, so it all depends on the person and how fast or slow you want to go with your process of attaining your designation. And every individual has a different experience with it as well. But the lasting goal is to achieve your CCIM designation. And that will distinguish me and anyone that has it from other individuals in our industry, because, this pretty much affirms that, okay, this person has had the proper training and skill set and has experience where they've done X amount of deals. And that helps and puts many clients at ease, that, okay, this person knows what they're doing, they're experienced, they've had the formal training. So that brings a bit more comfort, and also expanding your network in the process. And that is, the lifeline in our business this is how we meet our clients, this is how we meet developers, this is how we meet syndicators, investors, individual ones, as well as groups of them. Okay. So this is where I'm at with that. And I find it all very exciting, and I'm just thrilled to be part of this process and just meeting amazing people. And my local CCIM chapter in New England, we have a wonderful president. His name is Dave, and he's just amazing.
All right. So again, you mentioned networking. I know you are a part of this most recent cohort for Project REAP and the ULI Academy. Tell me about how that experience went for you.
Yes. Oh, I love REAP. I love ULI. In fact, I loved it so much. I took another certification for ULI through a sponsorship that they had with Real, with the Real Estate Association LatinX professionals. So after REAP, I did that as well, back to back. So I've just been really on a kick right now in terms of certifications, education, and getting all these designations going. So that way, you know, you just keep moving one deal at a time, quick. And so for REAP, I really enjoyed it. I'm so thankful that it was virtual because I don't think I would have been able to participate in a REAP program the traditional way, since I believe, you know, the closest city for me would have been Boston. I don't know if they've established a Boston REAP chapter as of yet. My understanding is that they were in the talks of it prior to COVID. But I'm so excited that I was one of the few people from Massachusetts in my cohort that were part of it. And it's just been wonderful. The graduates, my fellow REAP alum in my class have been wonderful. We've been friends on LinkedIn. Everyone has been supporting everyone's posts and all their endeavors and deals so far, and learning about other programs and other opportunities. It's just been wonderful. Mm-hmm.
I love Project REAP. I mean, that was probably one of the best decisions I've made, especially for my commercial real estate career. So definitely welcome to the REAP family, girl.
Yes, and I got to meet you as well. Besides all our Clubhouse friends that evidently they're a part of REAP as well, many of them, which has been very exciting for me since I feel like a newbie still in like a diaper, you know?
Well, it's awesome that they did it virtually because it expanded it, not just in person, because I think the closest city that was established to you probably was New York, and that's, you know, kind of far. So
right, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And we're talking driving.
Yeah, opened it up to everyone around the country. So that's awesome. But I feel like now that they've expanded it, they'll have be able to have smaller little pop-up events and stuff in the various cities. So definitely should be doing something in Boston or maybe even Worcester soon. So
absolutely. I mean, we would definitely support all of that, and I would definitely be part of that. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to get the call. Which someone would be calling me to do something.
Oh yeah, they will for sure. Do you have any other events or initiatives or any specific deals or anything that you're working on now that you care to share?
Sure. Right now, I know there's a lot of off-market deals that are going on that I can't necessarily voice, but I know that I'm going to be having a cohort of X amount of units in the North Shore region in Lynn pretty soon in my region. And then that's the northern part of the state. So I pretty much work everywhere I can. And so we definitely have a lot of investor needs. So anyone that has, you know, 10, 20, 30 plus units, et cetera, or even larger units that they, you know, either want to get rid of or want to expand into their portfolio, I definitely have clients that would, you know, in the 100 plus units space, would love to speak with them. And definitely, because there's just a need. We just need as many units as we can right now. And also people are looking into redeveloping spaces. We're seeing a lot of, let's say, old malls being redeveloped into condo units, into multifamily units. We're seeing a lot of old mills, especially in New England. We're seeing a lot of development, even through Mass Inc., which is our kind of government and nonprofit liaison for the state for development space, in terms of, in conjunction, like I said, where I was talking about these government programs, where they're looking into older mills, because in our region, we have a lot of mill cities and what we're calling gateway cities in Massachusetts, Lowell, Worcester, Lawrence. So these gateway cities have incentives, right, for redeveloping these old factories and mills into multifamily space. So we're seeing a lot of that as well, which is exciting. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds similar to like North Carolina. I know they're doing a lot of that mill conversions and old like tobacco warehouses and stuff,
Yes,
multifamily. So, ooh.
absolutely. And I think that's the way to go
Mhm,
for people in the development space too, that if they can redevelop,
mhm.
I know the construction costs are horrendous right now for a lot of people. And in fact, it's killed a couple of deals. I'm just trying to be real.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure we're not the only ones where there's deals that have been killed because of construction costs. So have to be very creative and right now and looking for spaces where they were former factories or mills, cities, and so forth to convert them into units, which I think is the way to go.
Definitely. All right, so this has been a wealth of information about the Massachusetts market. It's like so many of those developments that you mentioned. I have to go and research myself and see, look into more what's going on. But I want to shift now to the last segment of the show, which is called the Fabulous Four. It's just four questions that I ask every guest. So whatever comes to mind, just go for it. So the first question is, what is your favorite book about real estate?
My favorite book about real estate. Oh my word. I mean,
Or
real estate.
yeah, or it could be
One that I like is definitely because that was my first, home in real estate was with KW, which is the one thing, and focusing on that. As a writer, I try not to analyze it in terms of its writing. It could be better.
so,
I always think these are business readers, they're not gonna we're not going for, personification here or the beauty of the written word. So we're just doing nonfiction business writing. So but yeah, the one thing is definitely quintessential, I think, for any broker, whether on the residential side, on the commercial side, whatever, go for it. I think you just need it in your library. You go back to it as a reference to just, focus on what's important, that whatever your one thing is at the time, and just go for it 110%,
okay, yeah.
And then, yeah, I think that would answer. Yeah, that's definitely the quintessential one. I mean, I can go into other ones, but yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind.
No, for sure. That's definitely a timeless classic. So that was a great recommendation. So the second question is, what advice would you give to your younger self just getting started with real estate?
Oh, my younger self, I think I would have been taking more advantage of even more of my education and designations.
Mhm.
I did a pretty good job taking advantage of CEUs, from the local realtors associations and so forth. But I think I would have definitely benefited to know more about the different offerings, even related to outside associations.
Mhm.
How, as a broker or a realtor can one impact community, right? What are other organizations that we can work with in conjunction with our local associations, right?
Mhm.
I think I would definitely benefit more from that if I knew sooner than later. I also think that knowing a little bit more or learning from other brokers who've been in the business for a longer time,
Mhm.
maybe having programs. I know my local association has had a broker series, but I think that's more for when you're owning a firm and so forth. But I think would be a good idea to have programs where people have that cross section, right? Where one can talk to people who've been in the business much longer and vice versa,
Mhm.
with a younger cohort of realtors and brokers, et cetera, or developers in the space of commercial and investors who are coming up and coming, right? So having spaces to interact with those diverse voices, I think early on would be great, you know, in terms of when people are coming into the business.
Right, yeah, mentorship is definitely key, especially in commercial, because it's like something, there's a lot of things that you don't know that you don't know. So you definitely need somebody to guide you that's been there, done that, and experienced a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's also important to have a mentor that has a servant heart.
Yes.
Because to be honest, you need thick skin in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who are opportunistic. I can't believe I'm saying it on the podcast, but I'm just saying it mildly.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say other harsher words, but you know, I got to go to church on Sunday.
No, we got this. I definitely understand how that can be, and you know that's why we talk about being a woman. Like you got to be on your toes. Like
That's right. That's right. I had to. What is it? I had to wear my tough lady pumps. Yep.
cool. All right. So the third question is what topic in real estate do you personally want to learn more about?
For me, I want to learn more about creative ways of going outside the box in terms of financing, going outside the box in terms of equity and stack building
Right.
for large development projects.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn a little bit more about that as I'm preparing to service people in different sectors and different development projects.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the basics and I know how things go, but you know, as you know, every deal is different and every region is different, every city is different, and every developer's scope is different as well.
Absolutely.
So what do you do when you have multiples people coming on, right? And also learning if there's instances and examples where you do have multiple projects or multiple developers on one site.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, what do you do? You know, because again, you have to, you know, when you're building those teams, you have to think about everyone involved and also the local municipality and economic development arm and so forth. So I think for me, you know, those relationships are so crucial.
Absolutely.
And learning more about that. And economic development is, you know, you don't really think about it as a designation as a broker or a commercial practitioner. But if you can get, you know, in that education into that economic development core, you know, I know they have certifications in and of themselves for my fellow economic development professionals, but I think for those of us, you know, in my role, it would be so beneficial. I mean, I would definitely take advantage of it.
Right. Okay. All right. So last question, not really a question, but can you please give a shout out to another woman that's doing some amazing things right now in real estate?
Oh, wow. Yes. Definitely want to give a shout out to one of my co-brokes and friends and the other Latina in this city that does commercial work. Her name is Elizabeth Cruz. She's wonderful. I highly recommend her for sure, Jessica, to connect you with her. And she's been in the business for 30 years.
Wow.
So she was the only woman of color that's Latina, that speaks Spanish, that started in our industry in the city when no one else was around. This was before NARAP. This was before Cruz. This was like before any of that. And she has mentioned to me in conversations that it was a beast, that this is, you know, that if she had all these organizations that we're learning about now and have now, it would have been night and day in terms of the experience for sure.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. So shout out to you, Elizabeth. Thank you for being a trailblazer and a pioneer in your area. Appreciate that. So how can people, Jina, how can people get in touch with you? How can they contact you, follow you on social media, any of that?
Absolutely. So they can definitely follow me via LinkedIn and through my emails up there, through my full name, Jasmine Jina Ortiz. My contact is there, my cell phone, my email, and I usually reply very quickly. So that would be great. You know, they can just they can either email either jasmine@gogallagher.com or Gina with a J Ortiz @gmail.com. Either way, I respond very quickly, or they can PM me on LinkedIn or Instagram for sure. Mm-hmm.
All right, so this has been an awesome conversation. Any last words of wisdom for the listeners?
I would say for all the listeners in our industry, if you're a woman of color and you are contemplating on getting your CCIM or opening your own firm or growing in the current company that you're in, I would say go for it. If you're someone that's just listening and you're curious about our industry, I would say get as much education as you can and connect with those of us already in our industry, and we can make stuff happen, because like we know, it's all about teamwork. It's all about teamwork, and knowledge is power when shared. So sometimes I see posts about people, keeping information or deals to themselves. I'm like, if you keep a deal to yourself, you're never going to close it. I mean, even if it's a pocket one or an off listing or an off market, somebody has to know at some point.
I always say, like, having a little piece or percentage of a deal that's done is better than having nothing, zero, like 100% of a deal that never got closed. So
absolutely. And I love referrals. I love giving them. I love being part of it. You know, as long as I'm part of a team, I'm good, because I know that's where the success is. Mm-hmm. When you're building that team and they call you and they say, you know, Gina, we want you to be the broker on this. We want you to sell this, but we need this, that, and what have you. Do you know this person? Do you know this resource? And, you know, I'm just very blessed that I have, you know, connections and relationships with people that are pretty solid and that I continue to cultivate every day. You know, I don't leave people hanging, you know, you know, they just, you know, we hear from you 1 week and then there's several weeks where you're not even there. You know, I'm pretty consistent. And I think if I can give anyone advice that's starting out, and I think a lot of people would say the same, you have to definitely, it's all about relationship building, but you have to definitely be consistent, because that's where you as a genuine person comes in. You don't want to be seen as somebody that's only calling or being part of your life when you need something, although there are some of us who may have friends like that, only call when they're in trouble. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, it's nice to say happy birthday, you know? It's nice to say, oh, how are your children doing? Or how is your niece or nephew doing? How are, you know, I heard they're graduating, mm-hmm. so forth, from college, you know, things of that nature, and just building rapport.
Yeah, exactly.
Building rapport, I think is just so essential. Yeah. And I also come from a culture where people are very hospitable, very giving, very loving. So some people may have different perceptions of that. It's like, it's totally okay. You know, it's totally okay to give a closing gift. It's totally okay to just give, just to give. You know, there's no like catch. I find that a lot with mainstream Americans. It's like everything is a catch, especially for Spanish people. It's like, huh? Like, we're just kind of like weird. I don't know. It's just culturally different. You know, we don't, it's, you know, I don't know. And, you know, I don't know. And I don't know. Anyway.
Well, it's super important, like what you just said. Like, it's important to just stay, you know, build that rapport with people, reach out and ask them how they're doing without asking for their help on something, and just always approaching people with value. Like, I always try to ask people, what can I do to help you first before I'm asking them for a favor or whatever. So that's definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what I've learned from people in our industry that have been successful, like those speakers that came to our REAP cohort, and I learned from them, is that, they were saying similar things, that it's those formidable, genuine relationships that really can cultivate, make or break your career. And, and this idea of not crossing out people, because I feel like people have these misconceptions because you're a different culture or an age group or a certain region or a zip code that for some reason you won't be influential in someone's career or what have you, and that is not the case. And I think that people are very fast in deleting people, right? And I think that's not healthy, and you shouldn't cross out someone.
Yeah, I had another lady on the podcast a couple weeks ago. Shout out to Melissa Fleury, and one thing that she said that was really important is, obviously, in commercial real estate, there's not many women, and especially not many of women of color. But don't like be, discouraged by that, because there's a lot of white men or white women that would be, willing to mentor and share their knowledge and information with you. So don't just like be discouraged like nobody looks like me or can relate to me. There's a lot of people still willing to help and get you to the next level as well.
Absolutely. For sure. For sure.
All right, Jina, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all that information. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all your support for the show prior to this. So just thank you so much. You've always been just a glowing personality and always sharing a lot of information on Clubhouse and on LinkedIn and whatever. So thank you so much. Congratulations on finishing the REAP program. Just congratulations with everything that you have going on. If I can be a resource and help you out in any way, please let me know. So thank you again for being on the show.
No, thank you, Jessica. You have a wonderful smile, by the way. I hope your viewers get to see that.
Thank you so much. That's why, I love to record this on video as well, because like we said, representation matters. So us women, we come in all shapes and sizes and, colors and whatever. So just want to encourage and inspire somebody out there like, oh, someone like me can do this. I can do the same. So really appreciate you again. Want to keep you too long. So everybody out there, again, thank you to my guest, Ms. Jina Ortiz. She's a commercial real estate broker and dynamo in the Worcester, Mass area, and she's doing a lot of different amazing things. So appreciate you for coming on the show, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.